this guy. Because he fulfills his faith by obeying. So notice this, the statement about righteousness is significant. Abel's faithful obedience was something God could brag about. And it's like he opens up his wallet, you know, as I'm sure many of you have done, and you pull out the picture of your kids, you know, and you proudly show your children. It's almost like God is doing that as a boastful parent. He doesn't boast and brag over one person over the other, but he instead brags over the person of faith. And in this case, it's Abel. And God has placed this young man who lived such a short life in this great hall of faith. You know, if God does any bragging or boasting about you and me, I hope you feel the way many who were humble in the scriptures feel too. You know, I just want to return it back to God. You know, some people come up to me sometimes, I don't know why they do, but they sometimes up to me Sunday morning afterwards and say, that was a good message, you know. And you know what I say? I say, praise the Lord. You know, I maybe wrote it down, but he developed it. And these words that are here are his, and they're exciting. All praise and glory need to go back to him. He boasts and he brags of his children. That's Abel the faithful. Isn't that something? Just that little act of faith based on obedience brought great bragging and boasting from God. Let's talk a moment now about Cain. Let me focus on him. Because what we have here is Cain the rebellious. And pay no attention to that line that's there, but go ahead, hit it. You'll see what the line says. Not the hall of faith, but the hall of shame, right? He's in the hall of shame. Because Hebrews 11:4 says that Abel's sacrifice was a more excellent sacrifice than Cain's. A more excellent sacrifice than Cain's. Now there are more verses in Genesis 4. Listen to this. About Cain and Abel. Isn't that amazing? A lot more verses. Why? If Abel's sacrifice and his sacrificial offering was more to boast over, why is it only mentioned in 3 verses? Back there in Genesis. Verse 2, verse 4, verse 8. That's it. That's what's mentioned about Abel. Then Cain's name shows up in verse 1, 2, 3, and all throughout verse 5 through 16. Come on, what's going on? Simply put, friends, God is using Cain as an example to keep you connected with faith friends and to keep you out of the hall of shame. That's what he's doing. So rather than the shame crowd, look at this. Look at these things that are shameful. I've given you some lines you can write down. This is all about Cain right here. And look at some of the things. He had a shameful sacrifice. Number 1. And these aren't going to be flashed up, so you'll have to listen and write. A shameful sacrifice. He had a shameful hard attitude. Where's your brother? Am I my brother's keeper? Right? What an attitude. He had shameful jealousy. Folks, he was so jealous, he killed his brother. I mean, I said sometimes, I want to kill my sister. But I never put a knife to her neck or anything like that. I think I did put a double-barrel air gun with mud in it and shot her with it. But she used to knee drop me, right? Can I tell you the story about the time she and I had a fight in the house? I mean, we're rolling on the ground, we're punching and hitting and everything else, and all of a sudden, in the living room, we knocked over Mom's favorite plant, and there was dirt everywhere, you know? The war stopped, folks, and the peace treaty was written right there. And all of a sudden, we're working together. Much like the Ephesian passage you just read a little bit ago. Jealousy, killing, shameful killing took place. A shameful cover-up. And the result from all this shame was banishment. Hard, rough, terrible things that happen. And that's all wrapped around the whole idea of the shameful acts rather than the faithful ones. Now, can I say this? Because when you look at Abel, just 3 verses, you look at Cain and this whole story of him. Sometimes we see obedience to God's command as hard and extremely difficult to fulfill and put into practice. But to follow and obey is a lot easier. 3 verses. You catch that? That's it. Disobedience becomes the problem. Becomes the problem. So, we've put up for you here the faith friends effect. How it affects you. You believe God, you obey God, and He honors your faith. So, believe is synonymous with obey. Okay? And we've talked about the illustration of your chairs. You know? I mean, I can stand here and say, that chair is going to hold me. I believe it's going to hold me. I have faith, y'all, it's going to hold me. I got to preach it. Like a southern preacher, if I had more hair on top, you know, I'm losing it. You know, this last haircut I got, I see it's not growing back too quick here on top. But if I had that little wing, you know, coming down like a southern preacher, you know, it would hold me. But it's not truly full faith until what? I sit down. That's the obedience of it. Follow? So you see that statement? You believe God. You obey God. And in turn, He honors you. He pulls out His wallet. He opens it up. Pulls out your picture. And begins to boast and brag. Like He did with Abel. So here's your first faith friend. His name is Abel. God bragged about his faith. He counted him as righteous. Counted him as righteous. That's pretty exciting. What do you think about that? Now, before we go, I'd like to flash up a video. And ever since we got this new program that puts all this stuff up on the screen, you know, Tom, you're going to love it because you don't have to go bouncing and all that sort of thing, but we're going to bounce now. Okay, we haven't learned yet how to embed videos correctly. So we're going to do a little something in getting this up. But we want to show you a video. And the video has to do with 9/11. You know, a day that's thick on our minds. And I'll tell you, yesterday I spent a little bit of time looking at stuff. Hey, you did it.
Of course I did.
Amazing stuff. And this video, even though it's focused on 9/11, you know what? Think about what we talked about this morning, because you know it's a little embedded in there as well. Because we as God's children, and one of the things that I've been praying for is that we who are God's children, we who are Christ's followers, need to be the buffer of hard times. You know, to really, you know, this is, you know, the alert is back up, right? About terrorist activity again, you know? And I remember when it happened back on that Tuesday, and I'm working down at Walmart, and the TLE manager is calling me on the phone, and I had to ask him, I was saying, Steve, are you under your covers in your bed? Because, I mean, he was just frightened to death. Scared, you could hear him. Mikey, it's happening. He's from the South, you know. They're bombing us. What? I said, Steve, you know. And I had many opportunities to proclaim to him the peace that Jesus gives. And that's what we need to do, folks. Even in the hardest of situations in life. To be able to be obedient to God and show that Jesus is peace, comfort, control. So be inspired. Watch this video.